going on.
Right. And we don't have any, everyone's here, right? No one's missing. Amazing. So I'd like to call our meeting to order at this second before 6. Right on 6. And I would ask for anyone to declare a pecuniary interest that they have on it. No one making a declaration. I'll go on to item 3, amendments and approval of the agenda. And the recommendation before us is that the 7th of May Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee agenda be accepted as presented. Would someone care to move that?
Yeah.
Karen, second. Andrea, any discussion or questions? All in favor signify with a raised hand. All right, thank you. Number 4, correspondence. 4.1, Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism proposed amendments to the Ontario Heritage Act, Bill 5. Recommendation that the notice from the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism regarding proposed amendments to the Ontario Heritage Act, Bill 5, be received for information. And has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? Would someone care to move that receipt? Clyde, second. Julian, all in favor? 4.2, Lauren Eady, re 104 Robinson Street. Recommendation that the correspondence from Lauren Eady regarding 104 Robinson Street be received and that the Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee requests / does not request, so it's an optional item, staff to research the value of 104 Robinson Street as having heritage or cultural value. So, has everyone had a chance to read that letter? Would someone care to move the recommendation so that we can get it under discussion? Sherry, second. Councillor Lucas, get you next slide, Trevor. All right, discussion. There's an implied discussion point in that the suggestion is that we either request that staff work on research or we do not request that staff work on research. Pros and cons, any comments?
As a realtor, we got an opportunity to go see the property. And if I said it was a sort of a really generic late 1800s house that was in really not great shape, I think that would be a very accurate thing to say. He mentioned something about a staircase in there. There's no staircase that I can see that have any kind of historical value there. I mean, it's got an interesting shape and it's nice and close to the river, but at the same time, I don't see that there's really call for staff to be taking it to that next level and trying to figure it out. In the listing documents, there is a little write-up about the historical, the gentleman who built it, Mr. Clench, and it doesn't say anything about him actually living there.
No, so this is one of 6 homes that Leon Bunch built in the West Ward, and he never lived in this one.
He built the house for someone else, right? So in that sense, I don't see that there's being any more historical value to the house. I don't know, it's a strange one to say in this setting, but I don't, it really isn't that for me, but.
Anyone else?
I don't think it's on our list of significant properties, nor has it been designated, so I don't know that it's fair that we, ask staff to research on a property that we haven't identified. We just went through the list before and then the changing, and no one brought it forward, so I don't see the value in researching it myself.
Thank you. Sherry?
I was just gonna say, is there any way that we could take the real estate photos and maybe save those as something for the archives?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I have flagged with the building department. When they get a demolition permit request, even if it's not a listed property, that's something that maybe not so much from like a heritage standpoint, but from the municipal archive standpoint, we should, if we can get in to take photos to just have a record of those homes.
I can offer to facilitate a visit if of course, if the sellers and the other realtor allow us to, because my insurance would cover us. And seeing a house like that, or I can of course supply the real estate photos and the full listing to anybody who's interested in seeing it.
Any other comments or questions? So I would point out that in my reading of the letter, the second last paragraph is where the writer makes a request that Heritage St. Mary's correspond with an eventual owner with regard to the heritage aspects of the undesignated property. And I'm just not sure where that fits into our mandate. If it were a listed property or designated property that was changing ownership, it is our practice to correspond with a new owner to encourage their understanding. But this is sort of suggesting that we would somehow undertake to have a conversation. I don't know where that conversation could go. So I think the motion as framed talks about do research or do not research. And I think the first issue is to get over the request. And the request is that we undertake engagement with a new owner. And I'm just not sure where we would fit that into our mandate. But having said that, are we ready for the question? So the question is, do we direct staff to undertake historical research? Yes vote means they do undertake research, a no vote indicates no. Let's do it the other way around. A yes vote indicates we will not go forward with research. All in favor of not going forward with research, raise a hand. Carried. I could just get a double negative going there to really.
That'll do it.
My teachers will be proud. All right, thank you. Moving on to number 5, acceptance of minutes. We have in front of us the minutes of the April 9th meeting. It seems like yesterday. Has everyone had a chance to peruse them, and would someone care to move the recommendation that we approve those minutes and have them signed off by the staff and Chair Clive? Second. Trevor, told you. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, raise a hand. Carried. Heritage business, 6.1, heritage permits, 6.1.1. Heritage permit application for 65 Church Street South, and the recommendation that the permit application report be received and that our committee support the heritage permit application for 65 Church Street South as presented. And I believe we've got some drawings. And it's the Anglican Church.
Yes, it's the Anglican Church. Jason couldn't be here this evening, so I'm happy to speak to this report to the best of my ability. Yeah, this has been a long time in the works for the church, and I think they've kind of well thought out both the design and taken an approach that allows them to reuse as much of the original stone as possible while addressing the pretty obvious safety concerns based on the photos they supplied.
No.
essentially is a rebuild
Yes.
to end up with steps that would be safer.
So are they old limestone, like quarried limestone steps, or is that what they are?
Yeah,
You can tell from the
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah, I think that's what they are.
based on the way they're sleeping.
Nice.
They might have had some cement plastered on them to try to repair them or something. These, all this different.
Encouraged, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's not uncommon for limestone to flake.
yeah.
Yes.
It's probably the biggest problem with limestone over time.
Especially the stairs where you're throwing salt on.
Oh,
them.
yeah, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Lucas?
Thank you there to the chair. I just want to say, I think it's awesome that they're gonna try and reuse some of that material and make something good out of what's left over
Yeah.
and then still maintain a safe set of steps. So kudos to them for going through the effort.
Agreed. No doubt these drawings were expensive in their own right.
Yeah.
Have these prepared.
Yes, because they're
Yeah.
very small.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Smaller, the more expensive.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor?
Mhm.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now this one is like is this next one deja vu all over again?
A bit of deja vu with a slight alteration, yes.
All right.
So 6.2.1, we have a heritage grant application for
Oh,
201,
sorry,
or
we
did I miss
did it.
one?
No, I don't think we had a mover or seconder on the
Oh, I
heritage
didn't?
permit. We're all in favor.
We are all in favor, but
Oh.
would someone like to move it or second?
Oh,
Julian and Andrea,
Okay.
thank you. You gotta watch me, it takes a village. All right, moving on to 6.2.1 Heritage Grant Application. We're revisiting 201 Jones Street East Heritage Property Grant. And the recommendation is that the property grant report be received and that the Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee recommend that the chief building official approval of a heritage property grant for the application as submitted for 201 Jones Street East in the amount of, and there's a dollar amount. So do you want to go through the history of
sure.
how we found ourselves here?
Yes, so this project, or at least the first component of the project, so the repair, replacement and remediation of the fascia boards and the soffit and eaves shop, that was approved by this committee last year. And the applicant had the contractor lined up and then just was getting closer and closer to the end of the year and just did not hear back from that contractor. So the work did not happen as planned. When I met with this property owner in 2024, they did note that they plan to repair the windows this year. So this project had always kind of been in their plan and budget for 2025, but they're just looking to combine it with what was planned for 2024, and so they've reapplied for a grant for both components. So their maximum eligibility would be $7,500 for the two parts based on the quotes they supplied.
So would someone care to move the recommendation and adding the amount of the maximum 7,500?
I'll move that.
Karen, second. Clyde, any other discussion? I can say anecdotally that same contractor stopped calling me back too, so I can vouch for the circumstance this person found themselves in. All in favor, raise a hand. Carried. That gets us to properties of interest at risk 6.3. Yes, all the people watching over me. And I don't see any listed here, but I've messed up my pages. There we go. So we'll move on to 6.4, which is homeowner, property owner letters. Trevor, are you still our guy for that? Do you have anything to report on that?
I don't have any this month, I don't think.
Anyone else aware of anything we want to feed Trevor's way on that topic?
Is your listing on Wellington North listed? No, okay. Listing on,
All right. Stand down.
This is just one of the people who moved in though, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or if there's something happens, that if a homeowner does something designated or listed property that is particularly sympathetic to our heritage mandate, then they would be.
But
We
I
would
forgot about
consider
the house in
it.
Wellington, it's not a heritage house, the Victorian house. The Baptist one,
yeah, that's,
that's not on the list, right?
no, I was thinking it was listed, but I think one up is.
Yeah, the next one,
Yeah.
yeah, the cottage, it's Ontario cottage, yeah.
All right, that moves us into public art 7
Right.
and 7.1. BIA utility box wrap public art project, and we have a recommendation that the report be received and that the Heritage and Culture Advisory Committee recommends that council approve the utility box wrap designs as presented in this report, contingent on no major changes to the design following approval. So more pictures. Dig into your picture pack,
Okay.
and Amy, you'll walk us through this.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to this one. So I think this came up initially back in August 2024 as well. So we're gonna splash back to August 2024 at this meeting. When the BIA came to kind of introduce this project to the committee. At that time, their hope had been that these would be installed in the fall, but their timeline kind of got adjusted, so, and then they couldn't be installed over the winter, so they're kind of picking back up here in the spring. So since that meeting in August, a call was put out for local artists to submit an application or an expression of interest. And I believe there were 9 applicants that were submitted, and of those, there was a small subcommittee that was formed to review those, and there were 2 successful artists chosen from that pool of applicants. And so the next step was for them to submit their drafts, which are what are attached to the report. So the first 2, the Fish of St. Mary's and the I forget what she titled the other one, kind of Stop and Dine Downtown or something like that. They are both done by the same artist. And she's a St. Mary's resident, but has lived in other cities and has been quite involved in public art projects in other communities where she has lived. I think the fish ladder one is cool, especially the kind of fish ladder 1908 at the bottom. Because we do have a local claim to fame as being the owners of the oldest fish ladder in Ontario, which CTV decided was newsworthy a couple of years ago and did a story with me about it. So I think it's kind of cool that an artist did some digging and found that somewhere and decided to run with it.
Yeah.
And then the second set of boxes, so the one is the birds of the Thames River, and then the other one is, I think it was titled Downtown Critters. So one kind of focused on birds, one focused on animals, and then my understanding is the rabbit is an example of what one of the panels on the Downtown Critters would look like. And then the final page there, I didn't get these color drafts until like as I was submitting this report, so I initially just had some pencil sketches. So I went on this artist's website to try to at least find some examples of what her work looked like. So it was on her website. She's also done a number of public art projects in downtown Stratford. So they've done painting on like concrete blocks, and she's done a number of those, and then the new Big Swan mural she was involved with as well. So. Yeah, what are everyone's thoughts?
Right. Would someone care to move the recommendation so that I don't get caught like that again? And then we'll have discussion.
Yeah.
Clyde, second. Trevor. So, thoughts? So just to be clear, the critters and the birds are on two separate utility boxes. Is that how I'm reading it?
Yes, my understanding is the birds are one box, so each artist was given two boxes. to
Right.
do.
Oh,
So
okay.
my understanding is the birds are one box, and so she's kind of just done like a pencil sketch on three
Right.
sides to give you an idea of what they would look like, and then a more finished one. And then the town critters, I believe, is another box. And the more flushed out one here is the rabbit, so there'd be three sides
These
that,
are the final, like the.
Yeah,
no, no.
Okay.
well, I'm impressed.
And I think that's where I've been kind of struggling with, like. They had to have a draft to the BIA, so how much effort goes into a draft, or how much effort can you reasonably expect an artist to put into a draft, knowing that the BIA might come back to them with change requests, so.
I mean, I think like I didn't know about the fish ladder thing, so I was like, where's the, we don't have a fish ladder.
It doesn't look like that.
But we apparently do,
There's some
so.
ladder license
Now
there. but
There's
that
some
is-
license.
This is ours.
And yeah, those the first artists there, I'm sure I've seen her. I think she does postcards and cards. And I think I've purchased some of her stuff. But the birds of the Thames is so lovely, because who hasn't walked or driven along the Thames, and you, oh my gosh, you always see the cranes and the red-winged blackbirds and whatever else she's gonna draw, probably some geese and whatnot, but they're very beautiful.
I think as far as like just the fish one, because it seems like it's more the most fleshed out one at this point. Just could use a little punch up in the color department, maybe, like
Oh.
maybe the fish need to be a little more,
Buried.
yeah, yeah, I mean. If the shapes that she's got are great, like you can tell what kind of fish they are, but the colors just aren't, I don't know. But obviously that's still, it's in a draft stage still,
Yeah.
so,
Interpretation.
you
Yeah.
know.
Councilor Lucas?
Yeah, I guess my initial concern was that these were the final drafts, and that was, Amy and I have had discussion regarding that I just didn't want to see a pencil sketch or a box not completely covered, but that this has been reassured that, no, they're, this is draft. And I guess the fish ladder one, to me, I guess, I didn't know we had a fish ladder in St. Mary, so pardon my ignorance, so maybe that'd be part of a press release on this, just to bring some awareness to it and make it have some relevance to it, because I think, I don't want to speak for the average resident of St. Mary's, but they're like, why is there a fish ladder on the box? So I mean, maybe just some future or some communication of some sort on that, but knowing that this is not necessarily our final draft.
I think you make a really good point, though, and I don't know. Like, I'm not an artist, and my expertise is in using words to interpret things. So, like, my knee-jerk here is, if our heritage committee does not know we have a fish ladder and is not seeing the connection between this and our fish ladder, the average visitor to St. Mary's is not going to make that connection either. So is there an opportunity to have a sentence or two
That'd
on
be
here somewhere
Yeah.
explaining that, or does
Yeah.
that text take away from the art?
Is there an interpretive plaque anywhere in the vicinity of the fish ladder
No,
place?
Where was it, Amy?
at the dam.
At the dam, okay.
So I thought it was a kid slide, so when we were done trolling for crayfish, we slide down the kid slide, but apparently it was a fish slide. Who knew?
There's an opportunity even for, I love QR codes because they're so handy and,
Yeah,
you know, to link to a page with a description of each of the boxes.
Right.
So
it's a
that
great idea,
you know what you're,
really good.
what you're looking at.
Just a short blurb on
Yeah,
Yeah.
the St. Mary's Fish Ladder.
but you're thinking of like.
I think that page already exists somewhere, doesn't
I
it?
think so.
Oh,
Did you be
Okay,
able to like paint right into the art, you know, St. Mary's oldest fish ladder in Ontario or something?
And then the QR code.
And then maybe to find out
QR
about
code,
the fish
yeah.
ladder, like.
That's right,
Just
yeah,
something that-
Yeah,
yeah,
like I
No,
feel like a
it's-
sentence or two there.
yeah,
But I do like the idea, like a QR code.
About all of them, because even with birds, you know.
yeah.
maybe-
That rendering of the rabbit and flowers is very, vintage and kind of antique. It's very kind of Victorian. It's pretty.
Sherry, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think it's a great idea with the QR codes, and also you can have, you know, the artist statement and a little bit about the artist as well.
Clive, any thoughts?
So I just think the artist should be somehow captured on the blurb afterwards. The QR code, I think, could be printed onto a piece of vinyl stuff and stuck on afterwards if we needed to, right? It doesn't have to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna.
Yeah.
paint those.
That'd be good.
I love it. Just one quick, how many of these are there now?
Oh gosh, I think there's 11
That's a lot of
or
hours.
13 boxes in total, and so they've
Yeah.
started with these 4 with 2 artists, and I think the hope is if this is successful, do more in subsequent years.
Is it on? oh,
So
Sorry.
these won't be duplicated.
Sorry.
These won't be duplicated.
No.
What, is there any chance that the Artists Guild could get involved with this project and some of their art be reproduced on boxes if it's successful?
They would,
You know, like
sorry, who?
Well, the Artists Guild in town, you know, like you put a Peter Allen Rice on one and you put
So
a.
they would have to participate in.
Yes,
the
Yeah,
process.
they all would have
They
had the
would.
opportunity to.
They all would have-
apply. Yeah.
Right, you said that a committee already, you know, took submissions and.
Yeah,
Right.
so
She
it,
chose these. Okay,
so it was a public call for artists.
yeah, so they were involved.
Yeah, or they had the
They had
opportunity.
That's right.
access.
at least.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Any other comments?
These are, just trying to think where the other ones are. Is this only on Queen or are there any on Water?
Water, so the last 2 were,
Yeah, well, like the,
Where the other ones are in
the
the water.
intersection, but just
Right.
where the other 7 are. I'm trying
I
to-
think we had that somewhere
I think
when
we did have
when it
that.
was presented from the BIA.
It's not a huge, I'm just my curiosity. It's not. a
If
sticking
you
point.
haven't noticed them, then.
I'm
Google after they
very
are.
well acquainted with the ones on Queen Street.
Yes.
I know that there's a hydro box in front of my property. I would love for that to be.
Artistic.
So this is our first foray in receiving actual art material, and I think one thing that we're going to learn going through this is, number one, there won't be perfect consensus.
No.
And that's because potato and patata are not the same for everyone.
Right.
And the other is that because of the way the process is structured, we have to trust the process, and we have to trust that artists will do artistic things.
Yeah.
And maybe a third point is, if no one knows about fish ladders in St. Mary's, they will know
Yeah.
after they start writing
Yeah.
letters to the newspaper about why we have fish on our box. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But having said all that, are we at the level of trust that we can go forward with this recommendation and see what happens next? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Wasn't that fun? I think real meat and potato on that project.
Kind of our first public art bit of discussion, isn't it? I mean, not the very first one, because we voted to make it happen, but it's all part of the same.
So moving on to 8, council report. I would turn to our esteemed council folk.
Thank you. We've only had one actual council meeting. We didn't have a strategic priorities meeting, last month, so a very small council report. Just one thing I want to make note of, is that the province has mandated that we actually have, I don't know that we say qualified or we've been mandated with strong mayor powers, so if you haven't done any reading on that, I would encourage you, people and every average citizens, just to understand what the consequences are of that, and yeah, I know we have definitely some concerns at council level as far as what that is, so lots of questions on that, but there seems to be maybe not more answers, but more opportunities to learn about what that is, so just bring that to people's attention. And then the only other thing I have here is just on a staff note that our fire chief has resigned his position to take a position as a deputy chief in Stratford, so.
Was that before or after the breakfast?
Before breakfast, yeah, before the breakfast, so. Yeah, so we are currently working towards recruiting for a new fire chief, so.
Thank you.
But other than that, that was all I had.
Very good. Any,
Probably gonna be easier than getting a new pope, getting.
Maybe.
A little bit less.
I don't think we have to light and
Well, there'd be-
smoke or,
That's
yeah.
right. What?
so don't confuse, Councillor Lucas's point about Mayor Strathy's physical fitness. It's really not what it's related to.
Okay.
You are looking trim, sir. All right, anything to add, Mayor?
The only other thing is, the Heritage Festival is coming up too, if anyone's interested in both, to volunteer and to be out, lots of opportunities. I know Amy's probably in touch with them a lot.
Yeah, I'm planning to send an email out in the next couple of weeks, looking for volunteers for bus tours, particularly that day.
Hopefully we can point out some new artistic, utility blocks.
I'm always open for a free ride.
Air conditioned ride.
All right, would someone care to move that we receive the verbal report from council? All right, Julian, second by Andrea. All in favor, raise your hand. Carried. Thank you. Other business, downtown service location review committee update. Andrea?
The committee has not met since March, I believe. I don't know if it's if council, anything has come to council since that meeting in March. Or if there's just any anecdotal dates.
All right, so someone would care to move the receipt of that report? Clyde, second, Councillor Lucas, all in favor? It's that double negative thing working against me, because it's almost like a no report.
Yeah, report, but there's no report.
Right, thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
Upcoming meetings, Wednesday, June the 11th at 6 o'clock, we would attend again if business justifies. And if someone would care to adjourn, we are at 6:32. Watch for tickets on your 30-minute parking spots. Sherry, second. Jillian, all in favor, raise a hand and wave goodbye. Thank you.
Watch the Leafs game now.
What's that?
I just get for the